race to September has started. 8 teams, 4 matches, 1 goal. The Hawks and the Cats kicked us off last night, with the Hawks claiming the crucial week off. Today, the Swans and the Dockers have the same opportunity. A win, and they're 1 step away from footy's biggest stage. A loss, and suddenly it's a weekly fight to stay alive. It's a fight all too familiar for the Roos and the Bombers, with no next week for the loser tonight. Then tomorrow, Richmond's fairy tale run will continue, but the power will be out to make the Portress the final outing for the Tigers in 2014. Then there will be 6, every one of them 1 step closer to the ultimate goal. Qualifying Final 1. Welcome to Finals Footy on Fox with Sandy Roberts, Jason Dunstall, Alistair Lynch, Tony Shaw, Michael Voss, David King in the War Room, and all the news with John Ralph. Swans Dockers live in HD. Welcome to Finals Footy on Fox.
Thank you, Lockie Hume. Yes, a star-studded panel bringing you all the finals action here on Fox Footy. Big test today for Ross Lyon and his Chargers. They're doing it the hard way. They've crossed the country to take on the might of Buddy and the Sydney Swans. It all lies ahead this afternoon on Fox Footy. Wherever you may be viewing, it's great to have your company. Just sit back, relax and enjoy an afternoon and an evening of top footy. And when it comes to putting panels together for finals football, the one thing you do require is experience. And I can say that we've got that in absolute spades. Jason Dunstall has played in 21 finals. He has kicked 78 goals, second only to Gordon Coventry. And that is officially turning back the clock. And, of course, 4 flags. Welcome to you, Jace.
Thank you, Sandals. Of course, when you speak of experience, you're telling us you've got 3 old geezers next to you. But you've got to love the September football. September is when the matches go up a gear in terms of pressure, in terms of game style, in terms of what's at stake. This is what we play the game for.
I'm still wrapping them up. Alistair Lynch, 20 finals, 65 goals and 3 flags. Welcome to you, Lynchy.
Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, I concur with Jace's thoughts. It's great to get all the pre-qualifying out of the road, the pre-seasons, and kicked off last night at the MCG. Should be a cracker at ANZ Stadium.
And Tony Shaw, 22 finals.
Don't go the goal tally, please.
4.
1 flag. But took them out of the wilderness in 1980, yes. And you also took a Norm Smith medal. Welcome to you.
It's great to be here, Sandy. I'm looking forward to this game. This will be a contest. It looks like the conditions are a bit poor up there. The rain might have stopped, but the ground will be wet. Oh, one hell of a fight here. More
on the weather shortly because it could play a major part on this. Let's have a look at the finals that are to come and, of course, what lies ahead. We have Sydney and Fremantle coming up. North Melbourne and Essendon do battle tonight. And then it's Port Adelaide and Richmond. What an emotional day it's going to be at the Portress tomorrow. So all that action is coming your way on Fox Footy. But let's just turn the clock back 24 hours. Well, not even 24, because Hawthorn have flexed their muscles. I know you're just taking it one game at a time. But am I anywhere near on the mark saying that perhaps Hawthorn has got Geelong's measure?
I'm not sure you ever quite get the Cats' measure, but at least they've got the confidence now that they've had a couple of wins in a row.
Second half has got to be a problem for the Cats.
It is, and that's something that Chris Scott can't deny now.
Yep.
And I know they've been downplaying it, but at some stage that recurring theme comes back to haunt you. And certainly I think Hawthorn had a lot of confidence that if they were close enough, they would be able to run over the top of the Cats.
In the first half, certainly that Geelong had a few opportunities. I think Tom Hawkins, in his one-on-one contest, just wasn't able to finish off. But then the class of Hawthorn stood up. And what a great conversion from Jared Roughhead, who didn't have a massive game by any stretch of the imagination, as a few of his experienced teammates did. But across the board, at the right time, they stood up and stood up beautifully. There's a case in point. Louis didn't have a massive game, but ended up with 3 goals and played a pivotal role in the end.
I think they go down. The good thing, and I think this is why Hawthorn are the favourite, is that they go down to about at least 12 to 13, maybe even 14 players who might be able to go in the middle of the ground at any set play or any stoppage They have got a lot of flexibility. I don't think Geelong go as deep as them in the midfield.
History tells us that you win the qualifying final in recent times and you've got a pretty good path through to the grand final. So puts pressure on a number of sides. But there you can see the pathway that is ahead for these sides. Port Adelaide, Richmond, Sydney, Fremantle and North and Essendon. ANZ Stadium is the venue. It has come under considerable criticism in recent times. Is it fair criticism?
Well, look, we saw it last week, Lynchy. I went up and did the game anyway, and it was very, very slippery. They'd had 14 consecutive days of rain up to that point in time. We know that it's bucketed down again this morning. I think we've got pretty good conditions as we speak, but the ground hasn't had a chance to recover. I don't think it was anywhere near the surface that the SCG has to start with. No. So, again, it becomes a subplot to this match this afternoon, is the ground conditions, the surface, and also the ongoing weather.
Yeah, and we spoke to the curator pre-game last week, and he did describe, obviously, it's a multi-sport venue, and the main issue is where the grandstand slides out the 18 metres onto the ground, and then you've got the benches for the rugby games that sit on the ground. Now, that was underwater. That's all been replaced now, so the surface in that context is going to be better, but there hasn't been too much of a let-up with the rain, so I think that's going to probably favour Freo slightly.
14 mils between 9 a.m. and 12 noon today, so that could have a telling effect, but we shall see when we head to ANZ Stadium shortly. I was talking about experience before with you gentlemen.
More old geezers.
Yes, they're everywhere.
Not quite as old, though, I don't think.
To the War Room. Michael Voss has played in 19 finals, has 3 flags. David King, 21 finals and 2 flags. A wealth of experience as we welcome Michael Voss and David King. Kingy, over to you.
Thanks, Sandy. And our new sponsor, you might want to mention as well, Microsoft Surface Pro 3, Vossi. They've looked after us beautifully, the boys.
Very nicely.
I'm looking forward to what happens in terms of travelling teams. Top 5 versus top 5 this year. It's been almost impossible to win on the road. It's happened 14 times that they've met each other for only 1 win. Sydney won away from home against Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval halfway through the year when Port were really struggling. And I expect that to be the case again today. It's incredibly tough to win on the road.
It is, but Freo have done it before and they've done it in this very game this time last year. But expecting the game to be on the deck, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the ground ball game, for me, that's where it's going to be won or lost, especially when you think about the conditions. If Freo can take that away from them, I think they give themselves a very strong chance. But it'll be a very willing game, this one.
No doubt about that. Thank you, Kingy, and also to Michael Voss. John Ralph from the Herald Sun keeps us up to date with all the latest footy news, and he's with us once again today, and of course right throughout the finals here on Fox Footy. Ralphie, welcome to you again. Any late changes from either side?
Well, certainly Ross Lyon is in a rock and a hard place, between a rock and a hard place. He was very keen to get John Griffin into this side for some cover for Aaron Sandland, so we believe to be in some real problems with a knee injury. Unfortunately, though, Griffin has been taken out of the side. Hayden Crozier comes in for him. But that clearly is because of the heavy conditions underfoot. So it means that he hasn't really got any ruck cover, hasn't really got any defensive cover. I have to hope that Hayden Crozier really fires as the sub. Now, for the Sydney Football Club, Craig Bird is the sub for them, coming back from that PCL. A lot of that grass has been replaced on the centre wing. So let's just hope that it holds up under the final set of September.
Good on you, Ralphie. Thank you very much for that. There we can see the Sydney boys out on the ground. Despite the heroics of Hawthorn last night, Sydney remain as the flag favourites as we speak. And one reason for that is their huge forward lines. Absolutely massive. Once again, here's Alistair Lynch and David King.
The Sydney Swans are flag favourites, and rightly so, Lynchy. They've been playing finals football for the best part of 6 months, largely on the back of what their forward line's done. The Bondi billionaires and the Smalls that have come for the ride.
Absolutely. One of the most potent forward halves in the competition. Multifaceted, very big, imposing. They can do it in the air and certainly at the ground.
Let's have a look at where they're strong in the midfield. And I think we often talk about their forward line and we forget their core of what they actually are. They are tough. Look at that. Number 2 in the competition for contested possessions, and they're a go-forward team. They get in that forward line as quickly as they can. They don't score on the initial entry very well, as you see there, 11th in the competition, but they put pressure on. These stars are prepared to get their hands dirty, tackle, harass, force turnovers. The best in the competition at punishing once they've forced a turnover, and the best in the competition at forcing that repeat inside 50. And that's the one that does the damage, Lynchy.
No doubt about it. I don't think there's a better team in the competition at ground level to hold the ball in, and certainly the major focus in September will be on Buddy Franklin in the air. But I think it's very important for opposition teams not to overlook Kurt Tippett. He's a ruckman-sized forward at 201 centimetres, approximately 108 kilos. If this man gets clear air and jumps at the ball, he's going to be very hard to stop. We'll see from this example here. The ball goes in long, it gets rid of his direct opponent, then jumps. Now, that jump turns a 201 centimetre forward into a 3.5 metre reach. Very hard, once you're disengaged, to make contact again. So the big thing, which is very important for Freo this week, an undersized defence, you need to keep him at ground level. If you keep him at ground level, you wait for the support to come.
He's a magnificent asset for their smalls to find a reference point to crumb. This is why they can win it this year, Lynchy. I've no doubt the Swans will be a threat. We'll see it again this weekend.
Going to be really interesting, gentlemen. No McFarlane and no Johnson. Does the door just open a little more for Sydney?
Well, it can do, I think. I think Silvani was in reasonable form the last few weeks. I was a little surprised he was overlooked last week. So he comes back in. Ibbotson will be asked to play tall. And we know Ross always preaches the team defence mentality. And I think it's extremely important, say in the Tippett case, to ground your opponent. Don't let them jump, but the conditions should help there as well. I mean, but I think for the... at ground level is the big thing. We've seen Jack, he plays more forward this year, and to keep the ball in is his primary role, but he kicks goals as well.
You've been keeping a close eye on the radar. Let's have a look at it now. There has been passing showers this morning, and it looks as though, and that is a live shot, there is a little more on the way.
Yeah, just off the coast of Bondi there, so it's coming across towards Homebush, and that certainly the radar looks a lot better than it was mid-morning, but yeah, potential showers this afternoon, so it might catch ANZ Stadium late in the day.
Buddy is the key player, Jason, as far as that forward setup is concerned. How do you see the task of someone like Reid as compared to Buddy?
Look, it'll be interesting to see what sort of role they use Reid in. I think they have options there that he can be a swingman. Whenever the opposition gets a little run on, you'll find Reid just positions himself loose in defence. But he's also that dangerous marking option, a third tall up forward that doesn't, because of the fact you've got Tippett and Franklin, doesn't get a genuine key defender normally. So that gives him an opportunity, although I don't think he's found his best form by any stretch of the imagination. We know he's had a lot of run with injuries, but he becomes a wild card for them.
We're about to hear from Ross Lyon. Right now, let's head back to the War Room. Kingy and Vossi.
Yes, we're lucky enough to spend some time with the Fremantle Football Club coach in Ross Lyon. And can we quickly ask you, Ross, you're an anytime, anywhere team. That's your mantra. Does that factor in false starts at the airport?
Certainly comes into the equation, doesn't it, Kingy? So expect the unexpected, out of our control. Look, Virgin, it was unfortunate, but post that, they were super. They put us all in business class, including the coach. And, yeah, we arrived fit and healthy yesterday about 4 p.m, fought the tunnels out in the M5 for about an hour, but since then it's moved really quickly. We've had our meetings and recovery, and the players commented they haven't as much time laying around thinking about what's coming, so that's probably a good thing.
And moving on to the game, Ross, you talk about effort-based game all the time, so it must be particularly pleasing to see Mayne back to his absolute best.
Yeah, you're right. It is, and it is an effort-based game. You know, give great effort, extraordinary effort, you get great results. But you know, if you're mediocre in your output with effort, you know, you tend to get average results. So Mayne's really elevated his on the defensive side. You know, that was his trademark. It disappeared for a while, but he's certainly got it back at the moment.
We're looking at the Sydney Swans and how they like to score, Ross, and they get those repeat inside 50s going back into their forward end. Do you have to talk to your back six about how they counter-attack and do something fractionally different on the way out today?
Yeah, I think, well, it's any side presses really well. There's a couple of things. Go quick. First of all, get it out there where you can. And you don't have to be too finessey under pressure, long as 50-50, and hope your tools are in a good spot. But in time and space, you're going to have to spread the ball. We're a smaller defence. We've gone in consciously a little bit smaller. We looked at the Hawthorn model where they had Gibson as showmakers and then some roll, you know, handing over to the high-running defenders when Buddy and that goes high. So that's the way we'll go about it. But we'll need to run them in the end, you know, stay in the game, and hopefully our run can take its toll to the back end of the game.
Ross, do you think that's going to be the difference in this game? You talk about pressure. Sydney are very good at that. You're a very good football team when it comes to pressure. But that transitional run to be able to get the ball from defence into attack and then be able to hit the scoreboard.
Yeah, look, everyone, I know Kingy sort of talks about a fair bit out of D50. That's one indicator, but the reality is even the best teams only scored 10% from there. It's really about mid-turnover, your ability to generate mid-turnover and score off it. So, you know, if you turn it over, don't be ball watching, get goal side and don't get caught square. But when you do get it, you've got to go quick, open side and get it to your forwards quickly. So that's going to be the game, but what gives you ground position is your midfield and the clearance work. Teams are both top shelf clearances. And, so it's going to be a battle of Fife, versus Kennedy, Jack, those sort of battles. And, obviously Aaron, we're hoping for first use there.
Well, now that you finally got there, Ross, we wish you all the best in your endeavours to get over the line today.
Thanks, Kingy. Thanks, Vossi. Cheers.
Well, let's have a look at what happened last time that these two teams met over at Fremantle last year. It was an amazing performance, a defensive performance like we haven't seen before, Vossi. It was brutal.
Oh, it was amazing to be able to see it. It was some of the best pressure that I've ever seen, Kingy, just to be able to see that repeated tackling, and Freo just provided that environment. If they can replicate anything like that, they'll trouble any side in the competition. They're particularly damaged when they can replicate their pressure.
Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look at exactly what that looks like and understand how brutal it was.
Well, what we know with Sydney
This is the barometer here in terms of on the footy. How hot is that footy at the moment? You get hold of it and you get tackled in about a second. Pavlich looking to get rid of him. He does. Ballantyne with the bump. Look at them attack. I don't think I've ever seen pressure like Fremantle are offering up here at the moment. It's just extraordinary. Sydney under enormous pressure. As soon as they get it, there's a docker all over him. Unbelievable. Look at the pressure coming in now. It'll keep going. Watch it. Richards, there it is. They just keep coming at you and at you and at you.
Well, they're going to need to do that again today, Vossi. That is something we haven't seen before. And this is what it gave in terms of a numbers sense. You can see there the amount of turnovers they forced. Almost 70 turnovers across the whole field, but 25 in the forward half. That gave them 41 points. That's their game. Get it in, lock it in, intercept the ball where you can. They're huge numbers for tackles, 71 in a final, but they all meant something. They all had purpose, and they were rib breakers. That was the key to it. 26 inside the forward 50.
That is an extraordinary number.
That's huge. That's a huge number. 4 times the AFL average, and that just shows you what that meant to the Fremantle Dockers on that occasion.
Yeah, and then when you look at the guys who drive that, and these are the 3 guys, and they're missing Walters for most of the season, but his return has been really significant. To put him with Mayne, his return, his effort that he has, and we've got some examples about Chris Mayne's effort, and he's chased from behind, and this is why he's hard to play on, Kingy, just to be able to chase down from behind, that forward who just has a manic ability to be able to chase. And we watch his play unfold here. He gets involved, but to do and affect the play both sides of the ball, which is what's really impressive. We see him just out of screen here on the periphery as he start to push forward. And the play unfolds, and Westhoff finds a little bit of space, but it's the behind chasing pressure that's significant here. It gives the chance for the defenders to be set as Mayne is just prowling, and then bang, he gets him. And this is probably what's the most significant difference with Chris Mayne. He can do that, we know, but then if we go behind the goals, you'll start to see him tracking. Schultz is just following him down. Now he's in offence, and this is what the very good sides do, and Fremantle will have to do this again and again today. But as you can see, he starts to get his mode going. He starts to accelerate. They're in fast transition. And all of a sudden, he's gone from defence into offence. And if they can do that again and again today, then they'll trouble any side. And he's been significant in that.
He's only kicked 13 goals this year, which is a surprise given the fact he scored nearly 40 the last 2 years. So he does need to bring that pressure today.
He does. And off the back of that, when you start to look at his impact in the last few weeks, the tackles have gone up. So you've got Mayne with 13 tackles, Ballantyne 9. Walter's been added into that. Nothing really huge there, but they're scoring. So they're not only just putting pressure on the opposition. When they turn it over, forward of centre, as Ross has actually highlighted, and the stats tell us they are damaging back the other way, and they'll need to be today. They've scored 100 points the last 3 weeks. If they can replicate that today, which they probably won't, considering the conditions and the opposition, but it's a big number.
Well, that's what Ross has been waiting for, isn't it? That scoring power to come. He's been critical on that all year, wanting an extra 2 goals. It's finally arrived.
Yeah, and when you look at the opposition, they also know this is what they actually offer. You look at Sydney and what they were able to replicate the last time they played. Been averaging 74 tackles throughout the year. They've been number 1 in the competition, but when they played against Fremantle, they went to 102. So they know they've been preparing. The word out of Sydney has been they are expecting this to be shut down, for it to be choked. So they've been in full preparation for that game style.
Full pressure today, Sandy. This could be brutal.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. The countdown is on. Under 25 minutes to the opening bounce. I hope you can stay with us right throughout the day. Johnny Ralph has all the latest news once again. Ralphie, welcome back. There's got to be a question mark, does there not, over Stevie J?
Well, so you would have thought, Sandy. Now, last night, Chris Scott, the Geelong coach, inferred that not only was he in doubt for next week's semi-final with a recurrence of that foot problem, but he might potentially miss the entire final series. And then, of course, today, Stevie J, the old gunslinger, just waddled into Simmons Stadium. Not a care in the world, boys. Look, a bit of a limp, but certainly not on crutches. And he said, look, he might be in a little bit of doubt, but he feels like he hasn't done any further injury and he expects to play next week. Now, at the moment, he's in the waters of the Barwon River on Barwon Heads, putting some recovery into that and some ice water into that. Alan Christensen as well, they're hopeful that he plays after that back injury and they certainly need his run. But here's what Stevie J had to say about his prognosis earlier this morning.
Really good. Yeah, I feel fine. It wasn't ideal, but just have to win next week, I guess.
Chris says you're in doubt potentially next week due to this foot soreness. Do you think you could play?
No, I might be in a bit of doubt, but I'm pretty confident I'll play.
And is there some serious concerns in relation to perhaps further damage from last night?
No, not at all.
Now, Alistair Clarkson last night sounded quite cautious in regards to playing Cyril Rioli in a couple of weeks' time. Now, again today he spoke about the prospect and he said that even if he did get from the 85% at which he is running at the moment to 100%, he might not necessarily be played, given that they have such an amazing array of talent there and some really quality ins, even off the subs bench. So here's what he said last night about those prospects of him getting up to speed.
If he continues to make that progress over the next fortnight, then he'll give himself a chance for availability for the prelim final. So that'll be a welcome problem to have as a footy club. But he's still got a few boxes to tick. I'll leave that to our medical people and our conditioning guys to just give us some sort of indication over the next week to 10 days whether he's going to be available in a couple of weeks' time.
Ralphie, a cloud still over the future of Nick Malcheski. Any news there?
Well, the plot certainly thickens on this one, Sandy. Now, you think, why would a 30-year-old premiership player want to leave this football club? Here's the state of play. Now, he had been offered a 2-year deal on just mediocre money by the Sydney Football Club. The deal has been put off until the end of the season. They have significantly upped that money. They've added a trigger clause for the 3rd year, but a lot of Melbourne and West Australian clubs have come to the party with big money and 2 years and that 3rd year trigger. I think if one of them offered him 3 years, he might be a significant chance to leave this football club. Now, the Melbourne Footy Club, which he's been linked to, they are not believed to be one of those prospects. But again, why would you leave? Well, when you can set yourself up for life and you're a 30-year-old who might have played in 2 premierships by the end of September, I think it's right on a knife edge.
We've heard Ross Lyon just a few moments ago talking about the importance of Aaron Sandilands. How is he? There's talk of general soreness, if I can use that phrase again.
Yeah, you're right. Now, the track watchers have been watching Aaron Sandilands really closely because we know he's been very proppy in the last couple of final series. They certainly feel like he has got a knee injury. He seemed to be sore at the end of the last couple of games, boys, and as I say, they would have loved to have brought Jonathan Griffin in for cover. They have dropped him out for Hayden Crozier. Now, you look at the Sydney injury list, boys. Well, they haven't got one. Alex Johnson is the only player who is on that list in their probably their top 28 players, and it just shows that the players they can bring in, guys, they are so confident. So we see that Aaron Sandilands has got that right knee strap. I'm sure he'll get through the game, but you just think if they had 2 of their All-Australians of course, McFarlane and Johnson, and him at full strength, well, that'd be a heck of a lot of a better chance to win.
Just finally, Ralphie, there's been a lot of publicity surrounding Heretier Lumumba. What is his future? Is he going to part ways with Collingwood?
I'm certain that he will. Look, he wanted to storm out, he wanted to retire, and then he reconsidered and said, look, I want to be at this football club. A lot of people have interpreted this meeting with Melbourne as an absolute fact that he will get to Melbourne. But to be honest, he's off north for a couple of weeks. And so the reason he had this meeting very quickly was because he wanted to assess whether anyone loved him, whether anyone had actually wanted him. We've got the premiership captain from 1990, Shorey. Shorey, what do you think? Is it time maybe just to part ways with a highly eccentric character and get on with the business of winning a premiership?
See you later. Gone. Dustin.
Wow.
See ya. No individual's bigger than the club and the high moral ground he's taken on a number of issues. I'll tell you what, loyalty isn't one of them. Because 24 hours after that story comes out, he's having lunch with Paul Roos. Give me a break. And isn't that the club that they had the Rolf Harris little thing during the week? So it's a poster, it's Rolf Harris, which... Yeah, see ya, bye.
Well, I think Shorey's had a good long think about that.
Yes!
I have.
I hope next time he will come to the point, Shorey, but we'll just have to accept that for the moment. We're going to take a break. Stay with us, we're counting down. It is the Fremantle Dockers up against the Sydney Swans. To the winners, a week off and a preliminary final berth.
You're watching Swans Dockers. This is Finals Footy on Fox. You're watching Finals Footy on Fox Pre-Game, brought to you by Mazda BT50.
Tell us something about Fremantle's midfield, specifically.
Well, they're a very tall midfield. You know Mundy, Fife, these guys, and Barlow. They're big-bodied. They're strong at the contest, and also their pressure is obviously first class. And they really set the way in the AFL in terms of pressuring the opposition. And I think those guys are pretty hard to match up on because of their height and size.
Who's the most dangerous of the three? Fife, Mundy, and Barlow.
I think Mundy's work inside's exceptional, but Fife's ability to play inside and then push forward, take a grab, really test his opponent in all areas of the ground is a huge strength for him. And of course, Sandilands is a huge advantage, I think, for any side to be able to go into every game sort of knowing that you're at least going to have the ruck contest is, I think, is a huge advantage for midfield.
For Freo, I think with Fife, Mundy, those blokes, they're just such big bodies and so clean inside.
Aerial power, Fife, Mundy, makes it pretty tough if you're playing them, and they do shoot forward. And clearly against Hawks the other week, they were really impressive.
Well, that's exactly where it'll be won and lost, in the midfield for the Sydney Swans and the Fremantle Dockers. You can see here the ground ball game. This is where I'm huge, Vossi. This is finals football. Ground ball gets where it's tight and tough. Number one player in the competition this year in Josh Kennedy. Number one the last 4 weeks, the Fremantle Football Club. And Luke Parker's rise has been unbelievable. Let's have a look at what that actually means, what actually that tells us. And right now the numbers are Sydney number 2 across the year, Fremantle number 3. It's strength versus strength. It makes up 70% of contested possession. So for me, this is finals football. It's their brand. It's what they're all about.
And it's where it starts from, where you get your outnumber and away you go. And one thing that Sydney are very good at, as you said, about the ground ball, and one thing that Freo are good at is being able to close those options really quickly. So it makes it an interesting battle.
This is the one for me, is the clearance game, because I think we look at the Fremantle size and we think that they're going to be dominant in there. Surely they get a Sandlands advantage with the hit-outs, and that's a big problem for the Sydney Swans. But they don't rely on winning the actual first possession, which is the possession immediately after the hit-out. You can see Fremantle there, plus 136 across the season, yet they only convert half of those, or they're capped in terms of what they can convert into a clearance after that first possession. Sydney are the opposite. They're prepared to concede that initial first possession, but they minimise the damage through their pressure. Their harassment is first class. Their hunt after their opponents, they dispossess, and then they go through slick handball, bang, 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 and out of traffic. You can see there, they're the numbers. You know, the clearances break even with their opposition. They've got a clear advantage of +3. But the scores, the Swans are more damaging. So it is a stats anomaly, if you like. 30 goals from forward half stoppages versus 19. And this is where I think they need to maximise Sandlands. Yeah. Need to push him right in there, get him to do some work, see if he can draw some free kicks, see if he can put some players into space. Here's Sandlands right here. You can just see here, his hit-outs to advantage, probably the number one thing. This is the ball here where they need to be able to convert that first possession into a clearance. Doesn't always happen, but when it does, look at them go. They can be quite exciting. If Hill can get involved and they can step through like that against the Swans, I think they can have some fun.
I'd still like to start from a position of the positive, which is Sandland's hands and being proactive around a contest, because as a midfield group, it gets you proactive, so you can get those movements. Whether it keep it in tight or you flick it outside, you've got options, so it's a pretty good base to start with.
Let's have a look at the Sydney clearances from pressure, from that in-tight traffic area you can see. Just have a look at their harassment. In genuine traffic, and 3 or 4 slick handballs, bang, 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 and they're gone. And then they get to that outside game, which they are a go-forward team, and they go forward quickly. Look at Richmond here, plenty of numbers around the ball. In, harass, keep your feet, stay strong, stay tough, nose to the grindstone, head over the footy, then to the outside game, and look at them go. They charge. As I said, they're a go-forward team, so they're really predictable to defend against, but they know their troops are coming, and I think that'll be the game for me. If they can get their handball game going and get on the outside, they'll score and score well.
And that's why that forward pressure becomes very, very important for Fremantle. So it's a really tightly held contest, because both sides, I think we're going to see a little bit of a ruck and maul where it just flows down the field, and as a game of territory, especially if it gets wet.
I'm glad you got that right, Vossi. But for Mazda BT50 driving the conversation, I think Ross has to make a decision. Does he go for broke and try and score like he did against Hawthorn over at Subiaco there 3 or 4 weeks ago, where they scored 10 goals and a half, or choke and try and minimise the inside 50 opportunities, given the fact they're missing a couple of key defenders against Franklin and Tibbet? I think he'll choke. I think he'll try and allow the Swans 35 to 40 inside 50s for the game and accept they're going to get beaten down there on occasion.
Well, it might largely be determined by the conditions, but I think he'll go for broke. And the reason why for that is because he's gone that option previously, and I think he's said, well, if we're going to win a premiership, we need to be able to score. We need to be able to counter against these guys, show that we've got some potency up forward. He's played some critical players there with Fife, so I think he's gone with the plan, and now he's got to follow it through.
Lads, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's going to be a real interesting one today, because this is the big question, isn't it? And that's the Mazda BT 50 driving the conversation question that we're asking, is do you go the choke style of game? If you're Freo, do you try and lock the Swans down? Or, given that they're kicking 100 points a game now, do you open it up and go for broke?
Last 3 weeks they've scored 100 points.
Yeah, you don't do that in finals as a general rule, though. It's very rare.
Well, I think certainly over the last 3 weeks they've aggressively taken on the corridor. I don't think with the conditions and the actual venue, it's very narrow ground at ANZ Stadium and the opposition, I don't think they can afford to go for broke. I think the result will be essentially a choke. They'll stay closer to the boundary line and no deep pockets. You can still shoot from goal in the pockets.
So what's a winning score?
I think 85 points.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think the conditions dictate it a little, don't they?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, they both play a contested style of footy, so if it's a bit wet and slippery, that will, emphasise that.
Yeah.
I didn't go for broke. Scoreboard pressure is important. He said at the start of the year, Rossi Lyon, we had to kick 2 to 3 more goals to win a premiership, and you've got to, you have to get there in the first place. And it won't be a high-scoring game anyway because of the condition, but I reckon go for broke. Get a scoreline, put the pressure on that way.
You know what stands out about that? The two blokes that want to go for broke are the two blokes that have actually coached. What would we know? Two coaches are going for broke and we're all saying choke it up.
There's good arguments for both, but we're right.
You might have noticed Shura's in quite a good mood today.
Yes, he is.
That's very good news for us. We're going to take a break. Stay with us. We're counting down to the opening bounce. It's now just 9 minutes away. It's Fremantle and Sydney. It is a qualifying final. Hawthorn already have their week off. Can the Dockers grab one too, or will it be Sydney? Sunshine at the moment at ANZ Stadium. That's good news as the Dockers make their way out onto the ground. As they head through the banner, we shall take a break. But there you can see the work they have, and the season starts now. That's what the banner says for the Dockers, and how right they are. They've been a class act for a number of years now under Ross Lyon. Can it continue today? Stay with us and find out.